So the Olympic Games had a slogan, "Inspire a Generation." And at the time, I wasn't really sure what I thought about that. But as time has gone on, I've been reflecting back on a lot of things that have been happening over the summer, not just the Olympic Games, but the Paralympics, but other sporting achievements that we've seen. I've started to think about what I would like the legacy of the Olympic Games to be. Obviously, it's not up to me, but I like to think that if I've got a thought, then other people will be also having the same thought. Because one of the things that really struck me about the Olympics is it's such a contrast to the kind of instant gratification world that we live in. There are so many instances where if someone decides that they would like something as part of their lives, they can have it like that. And in some ways that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's all bad. But if you were sitting on your sofa at home when you were a teenager thinking, I would really like to win a gold medal, you can't have that just like that. It takes time, it takes work, it takes dedication and commitment, it takes resilience. It really does take a lot of focus. And it requires a certain amount of sacrifice as well. Because if you're going to train to excel in a sport, that means there's lots of other things that you're not going to be doing with your life. Now, contrast that with the notion of the kind of internet millionaires, people who would have you believe, I'm not sure I think it's entirely true, that a lot of the time they're making money while they're sitting in a coffee shop just watching the figures racking up on their laptop. There's a certain amount of work that goes into that. But I wonder if it's actually as satisfying to sit there with your designer coffee, watching numbers on your laptop and say, yeah, I've made X amount of money today. Is that really as satisfying as it is to excel in a sport? To stand on the podium and have a medal hung around your neck? To even hear your national anthem being played? When you think about that, it's not really surprising, is it, that so many of the athletes were moved to tears when they were standing on the podium listening to their national anthem. Do you think a so-called internet millionaire has ever been moved to tears over his latte while he watches the figures racking up on his laptop? I think not. So why is that? Well, I think it has to do with the level of engagement. If you play a sport, or you're a musician, or whatever else it is that you do that requires that you put in time and energy, that you dedicate yourself to doing something, and you do it kind of wholeheartedly, especially if it's a physical activity, then it engages you at an emotional level. You don't have to be emotionally engaged to build web pages and take information and money off people. It just doesn't work the same way. You don't have the same emotional involvement when you're doing arm's length things, when you're doing information, when you're dealing with just facts and figures. You don't have the same emotional engagement with it. You may feel good about the fact that you've achieved a goal. You may feel good about the fact that you've given people information that was useful. But it's probably not going to bring you to the verge of tears. So what am I hoping for as a legacy? Well, I'm hoping that lots of people will stop and reflect on what it's actually worth spending that kind of time and energy on. What do we really want to be doing with our lives? Do we want to be the spectators, sitting back on the sofa? Do we actually want to be the players? Do we want to do something that's meaningful and worthwhile, that we can look back on and say, I did that, and I still feel good about it years down the line? I'm hoping that for some people, not just the young people, for some older people as well, that having watched what went on at the Olympics will have inspired them to do something special and meaningful and important for themselves, and to stop standing on the sidelines of life and jump right in with both feet. Now, if you were going to do that, what is it that you would do?